Okay, so I'm going to demonstrate with Ever how I would mark the actual pace that I'm doing in healing if that was what I was trying to tell her she was right on and correct, opposed to if I were going to mark the actual sit or halt when I'm healing. But when I'm working on the pace change in healing and I want to actually mark that piece, I will demonstrate how I do that. And then the next time I will show you where it would be incorrect if you were trying to mark the pace and I were to wait until I stopped and she stopped or even sat because she thinks that's a halt, and I would mark that piece, but inadvertently I'd be actually marking and rewarding the stop and not the pace change, okay? So the first one I'm gonna do is how I would correctly mark the actual pace change or in the pace, and then you'll see me mark, and I can at that point just stop and then give her the cookie, okay? So the cookie doesn't really matter in this part. It's the actual marking, the timing of the mark, telling her that exact piece of the pace that I wanted to tell her she was right in, okay? With me. So I'm gonna go set up down here. With me. Forward. Fast. Yes! Good. So you see I can stop now. I can give her her cookie at any point, but I marked it in the actual fast because that's the piece I wanted to tell her she was correct in when I went from normal to fast, okay? So I'm going to do it again on a different angle with me. This time I'll do it in the slow. I want to mark the slow. Set up. Ready. Forward. Slow. Yes. So I mark the slow. I can then stop. At any point I can give the cookie. Okay. So many of you are probably gonna wonder why I'm just feeding off my body anywhere, even though we talked about the importance of where the placement of reinforcer is. If I was also working on making sure she knew she was in correct position, then I would consciously be feeding in the actual heel position on my left leg. Okay, so I'll do that too so you can see that. Close with me. Good. Set up. Forward. Slow. Yes. So see, I'll stop here and I'll feed her right in position to really reinforce her being on my left leg. Okay? All right, so the next one I'm going to demonstrate is how, if I were still wanting to mark and tell her she was correct in the pace that I wanted, the pace change, but I waited too long to mark at the end when I stopped, which means I'm actually just telling her the stop and the halt were the correct piece, okay? With me, with me. Slow. Yes. So that tells her what? I actually marked the actual stop and the halt, okay? Which would be, in her mind, the stop and the halt is what I'm reinforcing. That's the piece I'm telling her that was correct, okay? So I'll do that again. Okay? So I'm going to make the mistake again. The common mistake would be, even though I wanted to mark the slow, I'm waiting too long until the end where we stop and I mark, which means I'm just marking and reinforcing the halt and not the slow. So that would look like this again. Forward. Slow. Yes. Okay, so again, you see how If I were gonna mark the actual slow, yes, so I'm in movement still, and then I marked it, and as soon as I mark it, then I can stop, and I can feed her, okay? Because the mark told her that that piece in the slow was the correct behavior that I was looking for, and she got reinforced, okay? I hope that helps.